to Easy Vibes. The whole point of Easy Vibes existing is to have interesting, deep conversations with different sorts of people from all walks of life from all over the world. And today's episode is no different. And I'm your host, Chikamoya. So I had the privilege of having a conversation with Aino Roponen. I've been living in Finland for quite a while, but I still feel a bit nervous pronouncing names sometimes. But Aino and I had an absolutely fantastic conversation. Just a little bit about her. She's a content creator. She's got a YouTube channel, TikTok, Instagram, the works. She currently lives in Nairobi as of filming this right now in Kenya. She's a self-described global citizen. She's also very passionate about things like well-being and mental health and all of that sort of stuff. And we had a fantastic conversation about different aspects of being human, I guess, from talking about the expectations that society puts on us in different cultures to just what it's like living in a different place on the planet as a Finnish woman and so on. So without further ado, enjoy the conversation with Aino.
So
hello, Aino. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good.
Good. So for everyone listening, can you tell me a little bit about who you are?
Sure.
I guess,
Yeah, so I am a Finnish woman living in Nairobi, Kenya.
Okay.
I have a YouTube channel, Aino Luo. And I've made a lot of content about my life in Kenya. Now I'm also maybe trying to move a little bit more towards things I've covered to some extent, but like well-being, living a healthy lifestyle, mindset, these types of things. But the backdrop remains in Nairobi.
That's pretty awesome. And have you, because at least for me living here in Finland, I always get asked the question if my race affects the way my life in Finland unfolds.
And that is a question I've also received a lot from my viewers.
Right.
And I don't think I'm the best person to answer that. So
Right. But I'm saying, like, for you, though, being white in Nairobi, what are some of the massive things that have you felt anything that either makes your experience better or worse or?
Both.
Okay.
Better. One very common example comes to mind. So my boyfriend is a Black Kenyan man.
Right.
And whenever we go, let's say, to a grocery store together, my bag doesn't get searched, but his does.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is very interesting living in a mostly black country. So I do have certain, privileges.
Do you know what's funny about that? Because here in Finland, do you know how often I've expected to be searched? Like, I'm still not used to the whole self-service thing.
Yeah.
My head is still not completely. I feel like when I'm doing self-service, I try to do it in a way where I feel like to make sure everyone can see that I'm like, look.
Yeah.
So it is a very different thing for me. In terms of how trusting people can be here.
Yeah. No, but that's like a quality of the Finnish society. This is a high trust society.
Yeah.
Which Kenya is not.
Yeah.
That's one cultural difference that I'm struggling with a little bit. But yeah, there are also things that I have, taken to heart a little bit, like difficulties. Nairobi is clearly not as safe of a city as Helsinki is.
Yeah.
And whenever I speak about safety in Nairobi, I speak more as a woman than as a white person, because I don't think it really differs that much for me and a Kenyan woman. But there is this added layer of, race-based, things that people shout at me or something. Maybe sometimes I might even be more protected than a Kenyan woman because maybe somebody might think, that they better not touch me because maybe, I can reach out to the diplomatic police or something like that.
Right.
But So yeah, there has been aggression towards me based on my color, based on, anti-colonial sentiments, based on, I often also feel that like misogyny and racism kind of go hand in hand.
Okay.
So, if I'm going to beep this out, but if I get called a white bitch, that's both of those.
Both of them together. Yeah. Why does this? What is your day-to-day experience when it comes to being a white person in Kenya, coming from a mostly white country, right? You've gone from one extreme to another.
Yes. My day-to-day experience, I always say that when I was living in China, I was made aware of the fact that I'm a woman. And now in Kenya, I'm made aware of the fact that I'm white.
Right.
So I do notice it, not with everyone. There's a lot of people I hang out with in Nairobi where I don't feel any different.
Right.
But I live in, so I was having morning coffee on my balcony one day. Mm-hmm. And during that, 15 minutes that it took for me to chill with my coffee, I looked down from my balcony and I saw 7 white people. So I live in an area where there are others than me as well.
Yeah.
But still, walking 200 meters, very often someone, shouts at me, sometimes in a bad tone, sometimes in a good tone. They might shout like Muzungu, which is like foreigner, white person. Or maybe a drunk guy comes to like bother me, doesn't allow me to pass him on the street. Things like this. Like, or dudes like follow me for a distance,
right,
shouting, Muzungu, Muzungu, give us money, da da da. So even during daytime, even in an area where there's a lot of white people.
So what do you enjoy living about? What do you enjoy about living there? Because it seems like, that does seem like a lot to deal with.
It is.
In general, like, especially if you just want to be at peace and to do your life or whatever. So what counterbalances that side of it?
At the moment, what counterbalances it is that I'm living in a slightly nicer place than what I could here in Finland. Mm-hmm. Partly due to the fact that we don't even have that type of apartments in Finland, like with a pool and a gym. So I really like that.
Right.
I have my partner there, so that's a plus. Having the opportunity to spend time with my partner is quite a big thing in life.
Right.
And I love African dance. I can do it here as well, but I do it a lot more there.
Yeah.
I do have a job there that in many ways, is more motivating than what I had here.
Okay.
What else? Weather is amazing. I found a very nice, like, conscious community, it's not really woo-woo stuff, but like a more conscious way of living type of community and events. So
if your boyfriend had to one day wake up and be like, everything's good, money's good, everything's good, I'm happy to move to Finland, would you be like, no, let's stay here? Or would you be like, yes, let's move?
I would probably move back.
Oh, really?
There's a lot of benefits to being here.
Right.
And it depends also on your stage of life. Finland is potentially one of the best countries in the world to raise a family.
Yeah, true.
So, if you're in that stage of life, then it would be quite a clear choice.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, social benefits and support and quality free education, things like this.
Yeah.
So in many ways, it would make more sense to be here. And if I was younger, in my early 20s, still exploring, adventurous, then, I would probably answer very differently. But it all depends, because there's also benefits, like living in Kenya. I'm considering hiring house help.
Yeah, it's not something that you can do that you can do here without loads of money, right?
Exactly. And I'm still, a bit uncomfortable with the idea. So I haven't done it yet in Kenya. But I struggle with cleaning, so I'm considering.
Yeah, that is one thing that I was, at least when I moved to Finland, that I noticed, right? Because in South Africa, it's very common to have house help.
Yeah.
Someone you would pay, and I mean, in some cases, it's criminally low. But in general, if you've got a steady job, you can usually afford someone to come and help you in your house and that sort of stuff. But when I moved here, I was just like, oh, in fact, to be able to do that, you have to pay someone an actual salary or some sort of company to do it for you.
The only people who I know have had someone coming to help, and this is like maximum someone coming to do cleaning maybe every 2 weeks. Right. They've been very like upper middle class people.
Oh, really?
Here. And it was very uncommon.
Huh.
But, yeah.
But because at least for me here, coming from South Africa, Finland for me has been a bit of a breath of fresh air, where I'm not constantly reminded that I'm Black or that I look different or anything like that. At least for me, that's been my experience.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. We're coming from a mostly Black country in South Africa. I was constantly, it felt like race was always a big discussion. And of course, it makes sense because of the nature of South Africa and its history and Africa as a whole, whatnot. But one thing I found really interesting is when I moved here to Finland, I thought race would be thrown in my face all the time. But that's been the opposite for me, which is really strange.
It is so strange. But you know what? I think Finnish people generally don't give a shit what anyone else is doing. Like,
I know.
It's both a good and a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like, you might feel very lonely because of that.
Yeah.
But people generally are like, you do your thing, I do my thing, and like, I don't pay attention to you.
I mean, just like anywhere else, I'm pretty sure there's racism, whatever. But one thing I've noticed about Finnish culture is that Finnish people are more focused on if you're respectful of their culture, as opposed to the way you look. At least that's been my experience, where it doesn't matter what my skin color is, but am I actually putting in effort in getting to know the culture, the foods, the vibe? Am I making an effort to integrate myself?
True.
And whenever I've gone out of my way to try and integrate myself, I've always gotten really positive feedback.
Yes.
I've always noticed that people are not so precious with the idea of a foreigner being included in the Finnish culture in general. It's mostly like, you know, if I make a video of myself doing sauna or eating some sort of Finnish food, the vibe I get is like, yes, awesome.
Yeah.
You're a part of us. It's never oh, who's this Black guy trying to do Finnish things? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, true. And I think, I have a feeling that if a Finnish person is concerned of immigration, of many foreigners coming here, they're mostly concerned that the culture is going to slowly change into something else, that outsiders are bringing very different value sets that are going to overtake the Finnish ones. I think that's more the concern.
Yeah.
So if they see you embracing Finnishness to an extent, they've got no issue with you.
Yeah, I think that is particularly true with Finnish culture, because there is a real concern about immigration changing some, especially if let's take humanitarian immigration more specifically.
Yeah.
If people are coming from a country where the core values are not reconcilable to what Finnish values are, let's say the way you treat women or the way you view what are other examples? Like freaking, the way you view relationships or family dynamics, the way you view stealing, not stealing, all those sort of things
Yeah.
are very important to Finnish culture. It's
Yes.
the way you guys grow up. You know, I've lost many things here in Finland, and it's rare for it to not come back to me. In general, like I've left a bag in a bar or a laptop in a bus, whatnot.
Yeah.
When that happens, the chance of it coming back is quite high in general, because here people know that you don't take something that isn't yours.
Yes.
Right.
And the thing you mentioned about women, I feel Finnish people are very proud of the role women have had in the society, because we were the first country in the world where women could both vote and be voted for.
Really?
New Zealand was ahead of us in the being able to vote.
I think Israel is like third or fourth or something.
I actually don't know about
I can't remember, but yeah.
But yeah, so, and during the war, it was the women who kept everything running.
Yes.
While men were at war, and like there's a huge amount of women in the government, and like women have played a huge part in building this society compared to many other countries.
Yeah.
So it's a very core value of Finnish society that women are equal. Of course, we have our own issues, but
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite different from many other countries.
Yeah, and that's why I think there is a space to talk about that, because I get the vibe that talking about wanting to curb immigration or wanting to put in more steps in how someone can be integrated into Finnish society, or at least putting more effort into trying to integrate people into society.
Yeah.
I find that discussion can so easily dissolve into calling each other racist or calling someone else wanting open borders or whatever the case is. When in fact, I think it's a very normal thing, honest thing to talk about, where, say, for example, and this is, it doesn't have to be controversial, but say you open up immigration to humanitarian, like to asylum seekers from a certain area.
Yeah.
And then once you do that, there's an uptick in, say, crime, right? It doesn't uniquely mean that those people are just terrible or whatnot.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth investigating and worth maybe talking about, hey, maybe the values are not completely matching up. Maybe the people are coming from really difficult areas and they've got a different way of viewing life. But I think the worst thing that you can do is just sweep it under the covers and be like, if you mention anything about it, it's racist, because there's actually people who are affected by it.
Yeah. And I do think Finnish immigration system has huge issues. How, let's say an African man has a child with a Finnish woman, it might still be difficult to get here. I think that's a huge issue. Like, come on, keep families together. But yeah, I mean, it is a fact. Like, if someone comes as an asylum seeker, it's more likely that there are maybe mental health issues, PTSD, things like this. There could be, fundamental ideas. And you need to address these things. And, if you want people to have an easier time and to integrate to your society, you need to kind of have resources to help with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you think, or what do you think about the way immigration is spoken about here in Finland, and the consensus on immigration in general?
I have to say I haven't followed the official discussions for a while, and we do have a fairly new government.
Yeah.
And I assume things have gone, less positive,
Right.
like less, like more of anti-immigration sentiments, which I do not like.
Right.
But yeah, and I guess polarization is an issue with pretty much any topic these days.
Yeah.
Which I also don't like. And I mean, as I said, I'm always pro, keeping families together. And then there's also, of course, the very like woke side,
Yeah.
who I also don't like that either, because that's exactly the sweeping the problems under the rug. And
Yep.
like, I can hear very, valuable points usually from any side,
Yeah.
even if it's, a value system I don't agree with. But there's always something to take note of.
Yeah. Yeah, I do find the discussion quite interesting. I try not jump to conclusions and try either call someone racist or someone wanting open borders or something.
Yeah.
I prefer the idea of just talking about the facts, the things that are happening, because immigration, especially to Europe, is something that has increased.
Yeah.
And a lot of these societies that have like welfare weren't built to bring in an influx of people.
Yes.
Right. And it's true, if you are a country, it doesn't mean that you're racist if your first priority is to make sure that the people living and working, paying taxes are happy.
I agree.
And that's, it's such a, I don't know why people get so triggered by just that fact, as though, I feel very glad to be here in Finland, despite the cold and all that sort of stuff. And I work really hard, but I don't pretend to, what's a good word of saying it? I don't pretend that Finland owes me anything. It doesn't owe me citizenship or whatever.
Yeah.
I willingly came here and I've worked hard to be a part of the culture and the society.
Yeah.
And I pay taxes and all that sort of stuff. So now it's even, because I'm like, hey, listen, I contribute to all this stuff here.
Yes.
And in fact, Finland didn't have to use money on raising me.
Exactly.
So it's like a net positive.
Exactly.
For
I
Finland.
feel like a person like you is only, you're a plus, because, our population is aging as well.
Yeah.
We kind of need immigration actually to keep the welfare society going.
Yeah.
Or we need to start making a lot more kids.
Well, the sentiment here in Finland, I think we said earlier, is that a lot more people are not wanting the idea of having kids.
Yeah.
Right? Or at least right now, because you've got like 25-year-old women who are like, no kids. Right? I wonder if that will stick, or if there will be a time when it's like, shit.
It's very interesting. And I've noticed, as I said before, I've noticed that when I talk with Finnish women about, wanting a more, traditional lifestyle, staying at home with the kids for a long time, maybe, putting my career on hold for some time, I'm faced with confusion. Like, you got this education, you're so smart, you're so capable. Like, what do you mean you would just stay home with the kids? And like, what I do like in Kenya is that there's more understanding towards that women's jobs are as respected as men's jobs, so to say. And sometimes I feel in Finland, I don't know if I can really say that. Is this true or not? But in a way, of course, here, women are respected in many ways from the society, that we do get to stay home for a long time. We do get social benefits and stuff. It's supported. But at the same time, I feel like many masculine kind of ways of being are promoted a lot.
Yeah, it is. I do find it interesting that, at least in certain aspects, masculinity in men is frowned upon. Femininity in men is celebrated. Femininity in women can be frowned upon.
Yeah.
But masculinity is praised. It's kind of weird.
It is. And you know what? Actually, I think that is a very core part of Finnish society as I see it. I was excellent in school.
Right.
But I always felt like they were pushing me down because, we need to wait for the ones who are not excellent to catch up. So, I was not getting any extra opportunities for being excellent. It's always like we're waiting for the, the ones who are not doing that well for one reason or another. We're waiting for them to catch up. Sometimes it's a good thing. We have very progressive taxation. It's very hard to make a lot of money in Finland. This is not the place to do that. We have a good quality of life because a lot of things are free. But, this is not the place to get rich. I feel like everything, they're trying to make everyone the same. When it comes to money, when it comes to, gender roles, when it comes to everything, I feel like it's all in the middle.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
No, yeah. I think I completely get what you're saying. It's like, I think differences are worth celebrating.
Yeah.
I think although Finland has done a very good job in trying to be a lot more egalitarian or making everyone a lot more equal.
Yeah.
I think through statistics and stuff, we are able to see that there are still differences between men and women in terms of the fields of studies that people tend to go for and that sort of stuff. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. I think the way to go, in my opinion, is just to respect that every field of study, every profession gets the same respect. We can't live in a reality where fields that have more women get paid less. They should get paid the same. Then I don't see the issue.
Yeah.
And also, we talked about this before, being a stay-at-home mom is a valuable job.
Yeah. Yeah. I am quite intrigued as to the outlook on being a stay-at-home mom, how that outlook has evolved and changed, especially in the West. Mm-hmm. From where I sit, it's probably one of the most important jobs a human can have.
I agree.
It's raising another human being who is going to contribute to society, is going to affect other people.
Yeah.
How is that not super important? How is that not promoted in, and I don't even necessarily mean that a woman has to stay at home, whatnot, but just the idea of creating a good, healthy family, having a nice dynamic where the kids growing feel safe, loved, respected, But now it seems like society, whenever you talk about being a single mom, not a single mom, sorry, that's a different discussion. Yeah. But when you talk about being a stay-at-home mom, especially here, you'll get really? Mm-hmm. That's what you want to do with your life?
Yeah.
I find that really intriguing that that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It seems like women are supposed to, just be these career-oriented, use all the opportunities that we've got.
Yeah.
That we so fought for.
Yeah.
Way back.
So, but what made you feel like you want to have a family and all of that stuff? Why are you not pushing 80-hour weeks or whatever and doing that instead of even having the remote idea of having a family?
80-hour weeks, I do not have that energy. I'm too tired for that. I did have a phase being, a consultant and very, investing a lot in my career and stuff. And I didn't really feel much fulfillment from putting everything in that.
Right.
I've always had pretty long relationships, like years. And whenever I was in a relationship, that kind of took the center of my life. That was something that I always felt was very important to, take seriously, put my effort and my care, my love to that. So that's always been in me. And now that I'm in my 30s, I just feel like it's a natural, continuum to think of family. And I am much less adventurous now. I was very adventurous in my 20s. And now I'm just kind of, let me just chill where I am. And, family just feels like it goes very well with that idea. And yeah, of course, I want to do things, potentially work type of things, money-making things. But yeah, I think also I've started thinking of my family background more and, seeing what things I want to bring forward, what things I don't want to repeat. And yeah, I don't know. Just naturally, the years took me to a place where that just started, like I'm seeing that future for myself.
Right. So what do your parents think about you? Two things. Number one, living in an African country. Number two, dating someone who doesn't look like you.
My dad has actually passed before I moved to Kenya. I did live in China when he was still with us. And I think my dad understood very well because he actually lived in the Middle East for a decade.
Really?
So he had that adventurous spirit in him.
Were you close to him? Or?
To some extent, yeah. But, he was like many, I guess, men of that age were like retreating a bit more to himself,
Right.
But I always felt understood by him when it came to, these adventurous things and being abroad. My mom, I haven't heard that much of her thoughts. I feel like she doesn't completely get it. I once showed a picture of me and my boyfriend. My boyfriend is very dark. So her reaction was like, "Oh, you're so white." I was like, well, that's one way to put it. So I think
that is kind of funny.
I think there's a little bit of, like, oh, okay, I don't really get it, but sure.
That is so funny. And what about your friends? Do you feel like your friends, or at least even people that you know, do you get a weird vibe from them at all? Or is it not even something that you think about?
I've always been, one to travel and go abroad and have foreign boyfriends. So, everyone knows that about me.
Right.
So no one's like wondering about that. Maybe some friends, if I speak about cultural differences in my relationship, some friends who don't know me that well, they might be a little bit concerned, like, because, there's a lot of stories of, let's say, a Finnish woman dating a man, let's say, especially from like an Arab background, who have faced like, crazy behavior from the man's side because, whenever they would get married, then, the man owns them and imposes all his belief systems. There's a lot of stories like that. So I think some of my friends are a little bit concerned that like nothing like that is going on.
Yeah, that is a really interesting, I guess, it's a really interesting and a really interesting part of. Is it still recording?
Yes.
It's a really interesting part of immigration and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like how we were talking about earlier about passport bros, like dudes who will go to countries to get a particular type of woman.
Yeah.
Or what was the other word that you used for woman?
Passport hoe.
Oh, right. Why does that one sound so much worse?
Exactly.
God damn. But yeah, it's true. I've also heard some of those stories.
Yeah.
And in fact, my story was me moving here for a woman
Yes.
anyway.
But a
And
particular woman.
yes, a particular woman.
Yeah.
I didn't come and be like, so eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Can I get a passport from you? I'm joking. Yeah. Like, no, I moved here for a particular woman, but I did feel the shadow of that thinking over me. Like when I saw people look at me sometimes, or some of the questions I got asked.
Do you remember any of those questions?
Well, I remember a statement that the girl I was dating at the time said. It was something along the lines of like, because I met some of her friends and stuff, and then she was like, yeah, my friends really like you, and they all agree that you're not here for selfish reasons. I was just like, you needed your friends to tell you that? Like, what?
Oh, wow.
But yeah, but at the same time, I understood why, because it does happen.
It does.
It
does.
definitely does happen on both sides. Like it does happen that some men try to, I don't know, impregnate women and stuff to be able to have some sort of free ticket.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, I've heard those stories, and the opposite is also true. There are some women who will go somewhere just to find a certain, and in both cases, at least not the trying to get a woman pregnant to get a ticket, but if you go somewhere because you like a particular type of person, I think that's all right. Like whatever.
Yeah.
But as long as you're not trying to take advantage of another person.
Yeah. We talked before how someone has once, said that I'm in Africa for BBC or whatever, and I'm just always rolling my eyes like, I can go to Afro Sunday and get 10 Nigerians in one night if I want to. Like, nobody has to leave Finland if they want that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so interesting when you're a foreigner somewhere, like what type of, assumptions people can have.
Yeah.
Is there anything else than that prejudice that you faced here?
What, the prejudice of people thinking I just came here to get a free resident permit? Apart from that, not really. Because I have tried very hard to not be a victim mentally in any part of my life in general. So I have understood that I am part of the minority when I come to Finland.
Yes.
I can't expect it to be any other way. So I accept that. I accept that there might be some people who have never seen another black person in real life in certain parts of Finland, perhaps, whatever. So I take all of that into consideration. But the thing that has been intriguing for me is that when I moved here, as long as I tried to be a part of the culture and stuff, I didn't really feel different. I'm not constantly reminded that I'm different. So that's pretty great. But yeah, I've told the story before. I've had people come and ask me if I can sell them some weed.
Okay. I see. You don't even have dreads.
I know, right? Like I used to though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's in my past.
My boyfriend has, and even in Kenya, he sometimes gets people approaching him like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So that's probably the only thing I've noticed. But in general, I feel like Finland is a very good country. I also feel that people love to complain here.
Oh yeah. Well, everyone loves complaining, huh?
It is true. Like I've just, that's one thing I've noticed here. I'm like, come to South Africa and then and then come back to Finland and then see how much you have to complain about.
I often think the same.
Right.
Like seeing how things are in Kenya for a very huge part of the population. Then I come here and people complain of such first world problems.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying don't complain. I'm saying be aware of the, scale of your problems.
It's true, right? So have you managed to find friends and stuff?
I have.
In Nairobi?
Yes, I have. I would say whenever there's been times that I felt lonely and that I don't have enough friends, it's been more due to me being strained financially and avoiding going out, or like just being in general like not in a good state of mind and not going out. Like it's more about my own activity.
Right.
But yeah, I have a few good friends there, locals. I also have foreign friends there. There's plenty of foreigners in Nairobi, even Finnish friends.
Right.
But yeah, I do have a few friends, and I feel like there's definitely the potential of making more.
Right.
It's just that I don't go to places that much. And I mentioned that I do go to a lot of these like conscious events, like women's circles and stuff like that. I don't necessarily have like super close friends from those circles, at least not many. But I have a lot of people I know. So there was like a Conscious Kenya festival. So when I went there, I'm like, hi, like,
Right.
So there are people that I know. And then I once, one very good friend of mine, he's a Kenyan man. I met him in a house party 2 years ago.
Right.
And then there's some friends I've met through other friends. And I'm also going to dance classes. There's nice people there. Yeah.
Here in Finland, I've noticed that to have a good community, you either have to have grown up around certain amounts of people, gone to a certain school, be part of some sort of club.
Yeah.
Community doesn't seem to be out in the open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At least that's what I've kind of noticed here. Have you noticed the difference in Kenya in terms of how easy it is to approach people, how easy it is to form communities or any of those things? Has there been any difference, or is it mostly the same?
My personal experience, of course, we have to take into account that like I'm now in my 30s and my friends also, people are busy,
True.
And it's a big city as well. So people tend to be busier in big cities. So it's not like, everyone's always hanging out with their friends. A lot of people are just hustling and trying to make something of their life. In Kenya, particularly, many people are actually forced to hustle all the time. But yes, I feel like it was a bit hard for me to form a community in Finland, I have to say. I'm not part of any particular group here. I do have friends, obviously. I lived here all my life. But my friends are from very different sources.
Right.
So I don't have like a tight community from school or something. I have friends from all the things that I've been involved with, like individual friends. So I struggled a little bit with having like a group of people. It's a little bit similar, to be honest, in Nairobi. I guess it's just a me thing. Like I just tend to pick people from different sources instead of being in the center of a community. Maybe because I really, really like to tap into different kinds of mindsets and lifestyles. Like I want to experience a lot of different things. But yeah, in Kenya, I would say approaching people is much easier. I don't know if it's easier necessarily to make a very good friend, but approaching people, like, let's say I would want to date in Kenya. I don't, because I have a partner, but if I wanted to, I really don't think I would need apps for that.
Right.
You meet people and men do come to talk to you.
Yeah.
In Finland, I need to have an app and I probably need to talk first.
Being a man here in Finland in the same space can be a little bit annoying as well. Like,
tell me about it.
Well, I mean, it's just, at least, I mean, I don't find it difficult. But like, for example, I I don't drink alcohol anymore.
Me neither.
Yeah. And that has affected my social circles a little bit because drinking and having that sort of vibe, going out, getting drunk, meeting people in that way was a part of my coping mechanism in trying to create a community, or my coping mechanism in not having a community here when I first moved here. But now that I've stopped drinking, and plus my interests have shifted quite a bit, and I'm trying to hustle and build a bunch of different things, I'm finding it quite difficult to find places to go to where I can say genuinely just speak to people in a way where you're trying to get to know them without having alcohol there.
I have to say one might face the same issue in Kenya.
Really?
They are heavy drinkers.
Oh yeah. Maybe it's just a world issue, you know?
Yeah, but I think that's a similarity probably between Finland and Kenya. Like if you don't drink, your social circles might be affected by it.
Yeah, so yeah, the whole dating apps and stuff, I find them quite exhausting, to be honest. I find them quite annoying. But when you moved to Kenya, was the shift in lifestyle and environment, was that like a big thing that you had to work through, or did you just feel like, oh, this is natural for me to just be in a place that's so different to what I grew up in?
I have to say, when I first went there, I didn't experience much of a difference at all. I was spending time with people who led very similar lifestyles as I was here. I was single when I went there. I met people through Bumble, and these guys were basically, okay, not everyone, but, you know, I was a consultant with a decent income and, you know, living a modern lifestyle, going out to eat, to clubs. I met guys who led the same lifestyle there.
Right.
So I didn't experience any difference at all. You know, maybe they were a bit more, you know, proud and traditional in some ways, but
in terms of being in a new environment, though, like not being in Finland with the same transport, the feeling of safety, the people that you can call up, like, did you feel that a lot at all?
When I actually moved there, when I was no longer just, you know, staying there for a couple months, test driving the place, when I actually moved there, I did find it difficult to adjust that I could not be as independent, as adventurous, as free as I can here. And even in China, you know, I could just... So in China, what I was doing sometimes, I would take a random bus and just like go somewhere and get out at a random bus stop and explore the area. I can't do that in Nairobi. I need to know where I'm going so that I don't end up in a ghetto and like get robbed.
Right, yeah.
You know? So I need to be a bit more aware.
Yeah.
Also, now I have to say I live in a nice apartment. I do feel like I'm in a bit of a golden cage.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because, I mean, we don't even have gates and security in Finland.
This is true, right?
Yeah.
I think that was something that I found quite interesting when I moved here, because in South Africa, depending on where you are, there are so many high fences. Yeah. Beautiful houses, high fences.
I remember seeing that in Cape Town.
Right? Yeah. Whereas here, everything is just open.
Yeah.
Which is very, very strange. Have you... you said you were in China.
Yes.
What was that like? I mean, I watch a lot of videos about China and about the CCP and all that sort of stuff. But what is it like on the ground?
I think it has changed a lot. Okay. It started probably changing when I was there. But, you know...
Oh, like it's gotten negative?
Yeah, I would say so. Okay. I mean, I haven't been there since 2018.
Oh, right.
So
yeah.
I went there in 2014. That was still kind of maybe the last years of China being very welcoming towards foreigners, a lot of
Right.
opportunities, a lot of positive discrimination. You know,
Yeah.
people had a blast in China.
Yeah.
Best year of my life being in Wuhan. I was in Wuhan even specifically.
Really?
And then later I went to Beijing for a while. But I loved it. Oh my gosh. China has a very, very rich history and culture. And there's so much of everything. I was discovering something new every day, and it was so dynamic. And you can see how I light up when I speak about that.
Yes.
That was, in fact, you know, then things started looking a bit more, you know, China locked down for a couple of years, and, you know, I started hearing really, really negative things, which I could already see in 2018 in Beijing. Like, there was a lot more beware of foreign students, they might be spies type of
Really?
things. Yeah, I would see posters like that in the campuses, and I could read Chinese, so I understood what the posters were
you
saying.
can read Chinese?
I think it would be very rusty now, but back then I was good. So yeah, there was starting to be more of that attitude. So I thought to myself, like, I still want to live abroad. I think I need to abandon this China thing. What could be another dynamic region, an interesting region in the world? And I was like, let's go to Africa. I was supposed to go to Ghana, but my trip, I went in December, and it's crazy expensive to go to Ghana in December because the whole diaspora is going back, and
Right.
the tickets get very expensive. Kenya was cheaper, so I went to Kenya, and
Right.
there I am.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Kenya, if you were to relocate, is there anywhere else that you would want to go out, or is it mostly that the other option is more probably Finland?
I would say at this point, the other option is more probably Finland, or I still think somewhere in Asia could be pretty cool because it's also cheaper.
Oh, right.
I'm very stingy.
I see you.
I'm
Yeah.
very stingy. I want some value for my money. Nairobi is not the place to go if you want really good value for your money. By the
Really,
way.
isn't it?
No, not really. It's pretty expensive.
Huh.
I think even somewhere in like Southeastern Europe, you might get better bang for your buck, honestly. But yeah, maybe somewhere else in Europe, or maybe somewhere like Southeast Asia could be other options, other directions to go.
So, are you religious at all? I mean, especially, in Africa, religion is a big part of
It is.
society.
So I did not grow up religious, and you know how the Finnish society is. Everyone's very secular. Not everyone, but the majority of people, even if they are, you know, in the church, they are very secular.
Yeah.
So I've always been interested in different religious concepts, and I've actually even had a bit of a religious experience once. That was like with Islam though. So yeah, I've actually gotten quite a lot from my Muslim friends.
Right.
And then, you know, of course, then there's all this like new age things and that type of spirituality. I've always been very curious of understanding religions more, and I think they can provide very good guidelines for life. I just think that I haven't really found like a clear path that I would want to stick to.
Yeah, it makes sense. Are you ever invited to like churches and stuff?
No, I'm
Really?
actually not. The only experience I have with religion in Kenya is when I had to be hospitalized, and they come with that form and they have to mark your religion in that form. Maybe, you know, if something happens to you, they know what to do.
What to do.
Yeah. And, you know, because in Finland, it's an official thing. And officially, I am not a member of the church.
Yes.
So my answer is none. You know, because here in Finland, it's like, you know, what you believe in your heart is a different thing than what a form, like an official tax form shows. Yeah. So my official, you know, status is that I'm not religious. So whenever someone asks, I say none, because that's what I need to say in Finland.
Right.
Because it's an official matter. So I have 39 degrees fever, or maybe 40 at that point, and someone comes to demand, like, what is your religion? And I'm like, none. And there was no option like that in the form.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm not going to debate about that right now.
Right.
So it became an issue in the hospital in Kenya.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And like, what are your views on, do you believe in something more? Or do you believe in aliens?
I think I'm very agnostic when it comes to anything.
Okay.
Be it God, be it aliens, be it spirits.
So if you see it, you'll believe it. But otherwise...
Well, I would still question it. Like, is my mind playing tricks, or is this real? But there's some things that I can't explain, and I'm not going to say they're not true.
Yeah. Yeah, I always find that discussion quite interesting as to how people how they view things that we can't see, because I think we all understand scientifically that our eyes only see a portion of what is actually really there. Mm-hmm. And even what is there that we can touch and feel in itself. Yeah. Once you go small enough, mm-hmm. it starts acting super weird. So I always find that like an intriguing way of seeing how people view reality in itself.
Yeah.
But in another angle, then, how do you keep yourself sane mentally?
Oh, I actually wanted to ask this as well, because I feel like, moving to another country is a huge like stressor to your system, and learning to live in that society. I have to say I've had it rough. It's not only the fault of Kenya. Right. It would have happened anywhere, and I happened to have some personal issues that were unrelated to where I was living. Right. That really took a toll on me. So a lot of my time in Kenya, I haven't really been mentally sane, so to say. Like, I've had to take a lot of time for self-care at times, and I'm now much better than I was before. For me, having friendships, all kinds of friendships. I have Finnish friends in Kenya who understand my context and the things that can be difficult. I have this conscious community, and I can go to women's circles and we can share what we're going through as women and, have that aspect, very healing type of community. Then just having, Kenyan friends who understand me as a person, and they can maybe explain their society to me in a way that I understand. And that helps me, to understand better where I am and who I'm dealing with. So having that, also, I would say having a good balance of enjoying your new surroundings and, finding new aspects of yourself, but also, going back to the familiar things whenever you need them, be it your, routines or diet or whatever. And just, I'm very into like well-being. Like, I take care of what I eat and how I move my body and things like this. Just like taking care of your health and sleeping enough and, basic things. And I think, a huge part of my life is my, relationship, and just having very honest conversations about your differences, being from different places, and your expectations with the relationship and stuff, which I feel like need more attention when you come from very different backgrounds. Yeah, but how about you? I throw the question right back.
Yeah. I agree with all the things you said, except the relationship one, because I'm not in one. Yeah. And I don't have to deal with that at the moment. But I think the biggest thing for me has been creating routines and understanding that creating healthy habits are the best way to go about it. Yeah. I have noticed that, it is really difficult moving to a new place. Mm-hmm. for me, moving to Finland it was disorientating. Because number one, it was the first time I'd been a minority. And I was like, there's so many white people everywhere. And then there was the language where I was just like, I don't understand people. And for a while, I felt very invisible in conversations, especially when I was with people who would start speaking in Finnish.
Yeah.
And I was just there and people would tell me, yeah, learn the language. Yes, of course. I started learning the language, but it takes a long time
It
to get to
does.
a point.
And that is a huge stressor. It takes a lot of your energy.
Exactly.
I understand a little bit of Swahili, but I haven't had the headspace to become fluent.
To become fluent in Swahili. So what I basically did is that I drew within myself and decided to focus on making myself better, like physically, mentally, emotionally. I try not to take myself too seriously. I try and make sure that I've got goals that I want to achieve.
Yeah.
Right. But I think the biggest thing for me has been trying to be happy with who I am. And because loneliness can be a massive thing.
Yes.
But loneliness is a feeling, because you can still feel lonely being around people.
Yeah.
Or worse still, being in a relationship and still feeling quite lonely. So I have had to be very aware of all of that. And I keep a diary. And a big part of my coping with the differences here is to document it, to film, to share it with the world, to share it with anyone else who might be going through something similar.
Yeah.
I've been having conversations with people or just letting people into my mind a little bit it has felt like throwing a weight off my shoulders, or at least knowing that I'm not alone.
Yeah.
In that.
I think I can actually relate to that. Of course, you get the occasional backlash and criticism for being honest about your experience, the good and the bad.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel like there's still more support than criticism, and that support is very heartwarming.
Right. Yeah. What do you mean the support is very hard for you? What support?
No, heartwarming.
Oh, heartwarming.
Right. Not hard.
Are we still good there?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. It's just so funny. It's the most annoying thing when things like cameras stop recording.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Because we've recorded like a whole hour. And then this damn thing just stopped working. I find that so freaking annoying. But so you said you haven't kept up at all with Finnish politics.
I stopped it already when I was in Finland.
Oh, really?
I just, I have a lot of very friends who, maybe got educated in politics and societal issues, and who very highly value being up to date and having opinions about everything. I just realized at some point that I'm feeling much better in my life if I don't keep up. And if there's anything like super important, like a war starting somewhere, I will get to know. Anyways, and I honestly just want to live my life and not like have an opinion about everything. And also, if you think about decades before we were so connected globally, you didn't know what was happening on the other side of the world.
True. Yeah.
It's quite a lot to take on to be very conscious of whatever is happening. I have to say, I could be a bit more aware of what is happening in Kenya and in that region.
Yeah.
Because I haven't kept up with that much either. I think it would be beneficial if I, put more effort in that.
Yeah. No, I think I understand the sentiment. And a part of me wishes that I didn't want to be a little bit more informed about everything that's happening. But I think ever since the pandemic happened, I realized that apparently politics can get into anything, everything.
True.
There's no running away from it.
True.
And as someone who is at least one day hoping to have children and create a family, I just find that I think a part of me is trying to keep up with everything just so I understand the terrain of where my family would be planted.
Absolutely. Right? Yes. In that sense, I think it can be very beneficial. Also, well, I'm currently trying to follow up a bit on what decisions are being made in Kenya about how much does it cost to get married with a foreigner in Kenya, because they're talking about increasing the price. So it is relevant for me to know if I can afford to get married in Kenya.
What should I decide to? Well,
it costs to get married in Kenya, and there's a different price, I think, depending on whether you're Kenyan and marrying a Kenyan, or you're marrying a foreigner. In Finland, it's free to get married.
Yeah, number one, do it in Finland. Number two...
Well, then the issue becomes, how do I get my partner to Finland without being married?
Yeah, well, you can write an invitation letter. Yeah. There are ways around that in terms of, when you guys are ready or whatever. But there is definitely a way where, especially if you can prove that you've been seeing this person for quite a while.
And all these things, I said I have a Google Drive folder of proofs of my relationship. I'm like, oh my gosh, like all this extra thinking that you need to do.
I've had to go through all of that. I know it's kind of annoying. Oh yeah, and then number two, like, you have to pay to be married in Kenya?
Yes.
Who are you paying? The government?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
How much does it cost?
At the moment, I don't think it's too expensive, maybe a couple €100.
Huh.
But for a local, it can be a lot of money.
Yeah, that's strange. You actually pay to be married.
Yeah. Or I haven't looked into everything, but at least I know a Finnish woman who got married to a Kenyan man there. I don't know if it relates to it being an international relationship and getting, documents like related to that, because you do need extra documents for that. So maybe that's where the cost came from. I'm not sure. But they did need to pay.
I did not know that.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, because here you just go to the maistraatti.
Yeah, the Finnish.
Yeah, and it's free. Sorry, I'm just checking. I had some thoughts of what I want to ask.
No, it's all right. Go for it.
I think we talked about this a little bit, and this is quite, a basic question, but culture shocks in Finland.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any?
Culture shocks. Public transport and how you want to sit as far away from everyone as possible while still being in the bloody transport. At one point, it started out where as soon as I moved to Finland, I thought it was just like South Africa. You sit down on public transport, bus, train, whatever, and you will say hello to the person next to you. And if you can, start a conversation.
Not here.
So my first experience of that was taking public transport and getting in and being like, hey, how are you doing? And I remember always being slightly taken aback by the confused look I would see in people's eyes. And then, of course, people here are a little bit too shy to be like, get the fuck away from me or something. So they'll be like, I'm fine. And I'll be like, oh, cool. Yeah. That's awesome. So do you believe in God? I'm joking, but and that was a huge one. Another one was probably be the language.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, if there was ever a language that came from aliens, Finland would probably be it, right?
Yeah. You don't have much of a reference point with any other language. Yeah.
There's nothing. It's like it's a completely different. It's just completely different. It makes zero sense to me.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is how I've noticed myself changing because of integrating myself into the culture more.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm the guy who jumps on the bus and looks for the emptiest section.
Yeah.
Right. And I can feel myself changing in those sort of ways. Have you noticed yourself changing in any way?
Well, I say hi to the cashiers in Nairobi. That's a change. I never said hi in Finland.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I guess I became a bit more sociable there.
Yeah, it's funny how a Finnish person is like, I became more sociable by saying hello.
Yeah. I mean, I was always pretty sociable, but, you are, of course, conditioned to whatever is normal.
Yeah.
So even me, like, there is that antisocial aspect in public transport and
Right.
in the elevator and situations like that, because I learned early on that it's not normal here.
Right.
So for me, it's, in a way, it's quite freeing that it's normal to say hi to the cashier. I like that.
Yeah.
I don't use public transport in Kenya, but, if I would, I would be completely fine, like having a conversation with
Right.
the person next to me.
2 questions. The first one would be, what do you think that in your experience living in Kenya and I guess the culture there, is there anything in the culture there that you feel that Finnish people could benefit from or learn from? And number 2 is that, you said that you want to start showing your life there and that sort of stuff on social media and whatnot. What do you want people to take from that?
Nice question. And I have to say, it's a huge country with a lot of different types of attitudes and people. So there's a lot of, negative things as well. But if I can generalize some stuff that I do appreciate about many Kenyans I've met, I think the resilience and the optimism they have towards future. Things generally, let's say for someone to make something of themselves and succeed in life tends to take a bit longer than in Finland, where things are generally a bit easier. So I think there people have a little bit more patience when it comes to getting over setbacks and believing in themselves, even when things go wrong and go wrong again.
Yeah.
Because you have to deal with that more in Kenya than here. So I feel people there can be quite resilient and, they keep going and they keep believing in themselves. Of course, not everyone. Some get, some break down because of the challenges, but that's something I have appreciated. I think, what else? Well, I mentioned that I personally like this maybe a bit more traditional way of having relationships and family. So I'm not necessarily saying that Finnish people should take that because I feel that's a more personal preference. So it's not necessarily something that I think other people should like or do.
By traditional, you mean in terms of?
Putting value on like raising children and, and these kind of things. And yeah, I feel like this will be a huge generalization, but when I dated Asian men and now that I'm dating African men, I do like the fact that a well-raised man from these societies takes a lot of pride in being responsible for their family and being like solid rock and provider. And, I find that personally very attractive.
Yeah.
And for sure, there are many Finnish men like that, but I also find that that's not necessarily expected from Finnish men.
Yeah.
So if you're not expected to do that, you might not do that.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I can't tell you the amount of times, let's say, if I've gone on a date or something.
Mm.
And I will usually always offer to buy the first round of drinks, you know. And I've noticed, I've seen a wide array of responses from the, oh, wow, that's amazing, thank you, to the, no ways. How dare you offer to buy me a drink, you know?
I feel like this is, you know, this is the place where you kind of need to, I'm not saying have different standards, but have a different set of expectations. If I go on a date with a Chinese or an African man and they don't offer to pay, I'll be concerned.
Oh, really? That's an interesting, yeah.
Because I'm like, the heck?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Right.
If a Finnish man doesn't offer to pay, it's not that much of a red flag.
Even if, because I find that quite interesting. Because on the one hand, maybe someone living here has realized that, oh, apparently women here don't like it if you offer drinks. Right?
Yeah.
Because I have had times where, well, in fact, I think it's just a cultural thing in general. Because, and I'm not even just talking about like dates with women or whatnot, but even with friends.
Yeah.
In South Africa, for me, the culture was very much like, hey, I'll buy around, you buy around.
Sure. Yeah.
That kind of vibe. But then here in Finland, it's just so expensive.
Yeah.
In comparison. So there is that. But I'm also a little bit, even if you grew up in this culture, like for Finnish men, the idea of taking a girl out and not getting the first round, it is strange to me because I am trying to assimilate as much as I can. But I find that a huge hurdle for me. I always get a little bit nervous before when you're like, hey, let's go grab a drink. Because I always get nervous as to where the woman is. Is it, am I paying for it or are we whatever? But then I might get some pushback from like, you know, more left-wing women who are like, what the hell? We don't need your money. Yeah. You know? And so it's a little bit confusing out here.
Yeah. No, I do feel it. Yeah, it's a bit complex. You know, for me, I really appreciate the gesture.
Yes.
But also like I would, let's say I was going on a date with a guy from anywhere and we go somewhere where money is being spent. Like I would not get anything more than a coffee or an ice cream or something because it's it's the first date. Like, come on, like I don't even know if I'm going to see you again. Yeah. So like, I really don't want you to spend money on me like that much now. But I do have to say that for me at this point, having, you know, had this experience of dating men who do pay and are expected to pay, I kind of would expect it at this point. But for me, there's an added complexity because in Kenya, I dated men who had significantly less money than me. So how can I expect someone like that to pay? Right. You know, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
So does money not bother you in your pursuit for a relationship, or is it something that you have calculated, or is it something that you would like to overcome? Like, what is your kind of view on that?
If you're thinking about a family with someone, money does matter. And for me, what has always been, okay, let's not say always, because in my 20s, I couldn't care less about money. Yeah. You know, also in Finland, money is not as important as it is in Kenya, because you can get the basics here pretty much for free. So you can live a decent life being low income in Finland. Yeah. You can still get everything you need. In Kenya, it's another thing. So it kind of depends on what type of lifestyle you want, how soon you want it. But I think more important than what is on the bank account of the man is what type of plans they have and how do they treat the money they do have. Because there are many men who earn a lot, but they also spend too much.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to change that kind of behavior.
Yeah.
If I see someone who doesn't have much, but is very responsible with their spending and has plans, that's more valuable to me. But yeah, I'm not going to say money is not important, but that's a decision I feel that you just have to make. This is more from a woman's perspective, because if you're already thinking with a family in mind, you want the best possible for your child, and money does play a part in that. So it's normal to want financial stability. And it's normal that if you, let's say, want to stay at home and your income will go lower, it's normal that you want support from your partner.
Yeah.
So it does play a factor, but you just kind of have to decide for yourself, like, how much you're willing to build with someone. Are you okay doing that in whatever age you are? And observing your partner, like, is there potential?
Yeah.
That's how I view it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense, and especially doing it in a different country must be a bit strange or quite different.
And I do have to say that I am speaking from a privileged position because I do have the option to come back to Finland if I need to and get social support, which will help me to fulfill my basic needs.
Yeah.
A lot of women do not have that luxury. So I understand if for women like that is a more, like a bigger factor.
Right.
Yeah.
You said that you were hospitalized. What happened?
Oh, yeah, I got like a kidney infection.
Oh, shit.
I spent a week in a hospital, and it was a pretty traumatic experience.
Really?
Luckily, I had a health insurance because it would have been a very expensive trip.
Yeah. And like, was your mom worried? Or
I didn't tell her.
Oh, really?
Because she would have been. Yeah.
That is the freaking funniest shit ever.
Yeah, I told her much later.
Yeah. So just to kind of in somewhat in a little bit of a closing, like, what is your plan for this year? What are you hoping for? What do you want to achieve? Are there any big changes you want?
Yeah. It's taken me a long time to make Nairobi feel like home, and there's been a lot of hurdles on the way, some related to just living abroad, some things that don't have anything to do with that. But I'm looking forward to feeling more at home in Nairobi and just enjoying what the place has to offer, also maybe seeing more of Kenya, and just as you said, like, it doesn't really, even if you're a victim of something, it doesn't really help to be scared that it will happen again or, complaining about it too much. Just, focusing more on the positive things. And I want to take my content a bit more towards who I am as my authentic self.
Content as in social media?
Talking a bit more and showing more of my lifestyle, health, mindset related things with the backdrop of Nairobi. I've had a lot of like informational videos about moving to Nairobi, and that will still be there. But, ultimately, you are not just an African living in Finland. I am not just a European living in Africa. Like, we are so much more than that.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
And, that's also, you asked, what do you think can help with people overcoming the prejudice, is to see like who people are behind their nationality, their ethnicity and whatever.
No, I completely agree with you. I think in some way, shape or form, if humanity wants to advance, we need to learn how to see past the differences, the skin color, the cultures and all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, we can be honest about the differences
Yeah.
and the challenges that those differences pose anyway. So that's interesting. I think this year's gonna be good.
Yeah.
I reckon.
I think so. How about for you? What do you want to focus on?
I think for me, this year is going to be a year of learning a lot. For some reason, for a big part of my life, I don't know why, but I thought I wasn't intelligent. I don't know where that came from, but I always doubted my ability to do research, my ability to achieve the things that I have in my head. And I think this year is just one of those times when I've just realized, I was like, if I don't believe in myself, who is going to? You know? What do I have to gain by doubting myself? Life is short. Why don't I just go balls to the walls? And then, you know, I feel like that's a better way to live life than to just stay shacked up in my comfort zone, which is why I really enjoy talking to you. It's just the fact that you made decisions and you took steps that some people might find very difficult. You know, you've decided to step out and live in a different place, date someone from a completely different culture, and still somehow manage to try and stitch dreams that cover both your passions there and your hopes for a future and all that sort of stuff. I think that's a very admirable way of living.
Thank you. And yeah, I don't want to like put myself on a pedestal, but I do think it takes quite a lot of courage to live in a completely different place.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have respect for anyone who tries.
Yeah, and plus, I guess, lastly, I think it's better for everyone if more people traveled and got to see different ways of living.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a step in the right direction for us. But even though we had to restart this podcast, we finally made it through.
Yeah, we did.
But thank you for coming and having this conversation with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm really happy we made it.
Boom. Done.